Welcome to Follow Your Joy podcast, where intuition is the doorway to your wisdom, your genius, and your joy. I'm your host, Marla Diane, and I've been transforming creative entrepreneurs' lives for over 26 years. Through two businesses as a success coach and a business strategist, and prior to that, an entertainment publicist and a talent manager for 2 decades. It's time to make joy your inner GPS for life and business decisions rather than lean on your logic and reason first. You'll not only be following what is most authentic to you and for you, but you will live the beautiful life that's meant just for you. You'll come to learn that following your joy is a life and a business strategy. Listen in for inspiring entrepreneurial stories and solocasts that illuminate how by trusting your intuition, you'll create a fulfilling result. Want to learn how to access, trust, or up-level your intuition? Join me in the conversation to find out how. All righty. Hello, creatives. You are in for a treat today. My dear longtime friend, Jon Lawrence Rivera, is in the live theater world as an artistic director for over 30 years. What sustains him that long? I'm going to give you a hint. The endless possibilities of creating something magical, which theater is known for. I love that, don't you? I love the word magic. It is fun. So welcome, Jon.
Marla, how are you?
I'm thrilled to be here with you. My gosh,
Well, I'm equally happy to be here.
yeah. All right. Well, let's have some fun. Yeah.
Of course, absolutely.
Okay. So first, I want to share how we met, which was in the 80s when our mutual awesome friend Scott Freeman, hi Scott, introduced us because you two were roommates in Hollywood when we were all just beginning our entertainment careers. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had parties and gatherings, and oh my gosh, we were so young. Holy moly. We were so young and just carefree, and yeah, just a ton of fun in that Hollywood pad. And I've since followed, your extraordinary career path, which we get to share today, as being a theater director and founder of Playwrights Arena in Hollywood. Oh, you're going to love this, everybody. I've attended your 27th anniversary of the Playwrights Arena Hot Night in the City with Scott. Remember that?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
By the way, and I'm curious, share a
Yeah.
memorable moment from that night from the 27th anniversary.
Well, I mean, every year we celebrate several people in the community for the work that they have done. We've honored Scott Freeman at one point. We've honored different artists, different directors, different playwrights through the years, and I think for us, it's just really a moment to pause and just have a celebration and really look back and say, look at what we've done in the last year, and look at all the things that we are looking forward to doing in the following year. And unfortunately, the pandemic has, stopped us from doing it in 2020, and we're resuming it again in the spring for our 32nd year. So we just had to take a little pause because of the pandemic that we had to all go through. But it's really been a wonderful night of celebration, and to just be with friends and supporters of Playwrights Arena.
Yeah, no, it was a ton of fun, and so I'm so glad to know. So you're going to do it again. You're
Yes,
going to
in the spring.
resume
Yeah.
in the
Yeah, no,
spring.
yeah,
Oh,
in person.
oh, good. We'll
Yeah,
make
at the
sure.
same place. Yeah.
Okay. Will you please put me on your email
Of
list?
course,
All
absolutely.
right, I'll give you after
Well,
this.
and also Scott is on our board, so I'm sure he'll make sure that you know
Yeah,
about. But
he
yeah,
does. In fact, I think that's how I found out about the 27th anniversary because he's always keeping me up on it. So yeah,
yes, yes,
please put me on your email
I
list.
will. I will.
Terrific. Oh, good. Got something to look forward to. So, okay, let me give you kind of an official intro, and that is Jon has always been interested in theater, but way back then he didn't think it was sustainable until, and this is how he met, if I'm correct, Matt Scott, is that through, I don't know if anyone knows about this, but it's called Up with People. God, I remember those days. And it was through you being with Up with People where you realized, wait a minute, and it's like the creative spark happened for you that literally set you on, wait a minute, there's something here. And I call that intuition. I call that following the nudge. All right, following the and success leaves clues. And so you started taking theater classes and you found, wait a minute, I'm really enjoying this thing, which you're going to share a little bit more. And it's also back in 92 when Jon started the Playwrights Arena. If you're here in LA and you're listening to this, you definitely need to go to their website, which will give you all that info and go see these plays. I mean, you're talking what, 32, 31, 32 years of doing beautiful live theater, which is, I mean, that is the core of acting and so forth in that part of entertainment. Okay, so let's have you give the listeners a glimpse of your story and those days with people that struck that chord for you and opened up your creativity.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I think the interesting thing about Up with People is that, first of all, we at that time in 1981 we had to raise about $5,000 each to join the organization, and so because of my passion to really join Up with People and believing in their mission, I was able to raise the money through I made T-shirts and I sold them and as a fundraising tool, and I asked different donors to put money into it. So I was able to raise 5,000 and went on this tour just because of my passion, and I believed that I wanted to go to this trip. When I came back, I realized then that if I have passion and desire, which I did for Up with People, I can do it for my own desire and my own want in life. And so when I came back, I said, well, what's stopping me from becoming a theater artist? What's stopping me from becoming a person in the arts? Because I've heard it all like, oh, it's not sustainable. It's really hard. You're never going to get any money. You're never going to, always be poor. And, there's some truth to that. But I just felt like, I really wanted to be in the theater and I need to make it happen for myself. So I started producing independently before I started Playwrights Arena. I worked with a lot of different artists, mostly with projects that they really wanted to do. So a few years doing that, I realized that I wanted to do the plays that I wanted to do. So I created Playwrights Arena in 92 and got a board of directors, started a fundraising campaign. And, 30 some years later, we've never got into a red. We've always been on the black at the end of it. We are very frugal in the way that we spend money. But it kept me alive and working in the arts for 30 years and beyond now, I hope, just because of that passion that I had. And it also opened up opportunities. The thing is that we don't know going in when we were younger, when we're like going in and starting something, is that, oh, well, there's all these desires and all the wants, but then you don't realize the effect that will have for your own future. So to me, it became my business card of sorts to have Playwrights Arena, because then people were able to see my work as a director. They were able to see my work as a producer, and people were really they understood my mission and my goals. So it wasn't like I was wishy-washy. Oh, today I'm gonna do love letters, and then tomorrow I'm gonna do, another hard edge piece. I was really right from the very beginning interested in the intersection of community and art, and so making sure that I am giving voice to people that are underserved. So it has worked really great for me so far. And I think my only takeaway from all of it is really, if there is that passion that you have, there is a way to make it happen.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. No, you are definitely the poster child for that, Jon. Tell the listeners, what is up with people? What do you do there?
So when I travel in Up with People, I sang and danced. Mostly I dance. I was a featured dancer like Scott. And we traveled a whole year, and we stayed in different host families. And that tour really opened up my understanding of the world, because one night I will stay with a family that has like a 8-bedroom house in Chicago's upper, homes, and then the following time I would be in Finland, in Helsinki, in a 1-bedroom with a family of 4, and we're like cramped in there.
Oh my gosh.
But the thing that's interesting is that there is this notion of really enjoying what you have. So I found that people who have the very little money, they are grateful for what they have, and people who have a lot of money, they are also grateful and able to support other people. But overall, I found that in all the cities, and we traveled for the first 6 months, we traveled all over the US, and then the second 6 months we were all over Scandinavia and all over Germany and Belgium and all of that. So what I found is that there is this resilience and joy and ownership and love amongst humanity, which I found just really inspiring. And so beyond the work that we did as a performer on stage for our concerts, we would do presentations in hospitals, in nursing homes, in prisons, in deaf schools, and different places that really gave us some insight into these people. And I think it is, I never finished college, but I felt like that 1 year in Up with People was really like my master class. It was really my graduate degree in like understanding human condition.
Oh my gosh. It was like, it was like your college.
That's
You
right.
know?
Yeah. Oh, and yeah. It was really
Seriously.
an equivalent to that, because
Yeah.
you're exposed to all of these experiences and all of these, people, and it was really inspiring to be on that tour. And I take that with me even today. I always say that, I think my life shifted after traveling and Up with People, because I had better understanding not only of the world, but most especially of myself. Like that I can actually pursue the things that I want to do, because I have seen it both in the poorest of situation and the richest of situation,
Right.
that it can happen.
Oh my gosh. Well, and that's a fabulous example of what we were talking about before we got on here, which is one of my favorite subjects, transformational travel. So what Jon is sharing is exactly why, as a coach, the first thing I'll usually ask my clients if they're in a burnout, besides their self-care, I'll go, when's the last time you traveled? Go travel. Get out of here. Break your patterns. Get out of your everyday routine and go learn about a new culture. It will humble you. It will expand you. It will make you more rich. It will allow you, like you just said, allow you to really find yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And whenever I have, not only for Playwrights Arena that I do a lot of work, but then I'm also an independent director for other theaters. So I'm a freelance director. So sometimes my calendar just gets filled up. But when I see that there is an opening and any opportunity that's like, oh, wait a minute, I've got a week and a half oh, wait a minute, I'm going to go away, because I really
Right.
think that we all need to just recharge,
Yeah.
recharge, and really be immersed in another culture so that
Mhm.
we get to also be inspired by that, by the travel.
Oh my
So,
gosh, good on you. And I know, obviously having followed you and stayed in contact with you, you do love travel. I mean, it's definitely one of your passions. Mine, mine too, and many of my friends. So I'm so glad that you've kept up with that to keep yourself refreshed.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, somebody asked me a long time ago,
Mhm.
what would I have done if I weren't in the arts or theater? And I said I probably would have been a flight attendant, or at least worked for an airline, because I love to travel so much, and
Travel.
I probably would have just done that. But I mean, always my passion, even when I was growing up in the Philippines, was to to be in the arts. It's just that really, even in the Philippines when I was growing up,
Mhm.
it wasn't an option as a career. It was never
Right.
like thought of as like that is a possibility, that is a track that you can actually do.
Mm.
So it was like always just in the back of my head, and until I went to Up with People, that I realized, you know
Yeah.
what,
Yeah.
this is who I am, and this is what I want to do.
Yeah, that was a beautiful jumping off point for you to, as I said, I mean, if coming from a spiritual perspective, which I, often do, is, that was meant to be. That was how we connect the dots of our life. And you were absolutely supposed to be there doing that to then move to the next step of creating Playwrights Arena.
Yeah.
So beautiful. So talk about, if you would, what brings you the most joy in your work, and why?
I think for me, the endless possibilities of creating art, and again, this idea of intersectionality of art and community, I think it's always been the cornerstone of what makes art making really joyful, especially when you could present it as authentically as possible, and also if you could uplift and support underserved voices. So for me, the joy I get from doing theater is that being able to be a place where these stories that are not normally told in bigger theaters have a space to be told, and giving them a safe space has always been a very important part of my work. And I just feel like when I can merge those two things, art and community, then I am at a place where I feel like there is value to the art, and not just saying, let's just do some entertainment and it's going to be fun and that will be it. That I find that it is most joyful for me if that entertainment actually touches and reaches other people who have no understanding of that situation, or of that culture, or
Mm.
of that idea, or of that story. And I think when I can make those connections, like you've said, Marla, about connecting ideas and thoughts and people, and I think that's when we get to me, that's when I am most happy in my life, because when I do a production and somebody walks up to me and they say, I have never heard Tagalog being spoken in a play, and see Filipinos on stage. They go, I can't believe that I'm seeing this. I'm in high school, and I want to be able to, like, now I feel like I am represented. So
Mhm.
when somebody says that to me after a performance, I am in heaven.
Yeah.
I am in heaven. I don't care what the critics say. I'm not
Yeah.
really, I don't know that we're going to sell out every performance, but
Mhm.
when
Mhm.
I could reach that one person or two or three or whoever to sit there and say, oh my God, I am being represented right there. I can see myself there. Then
Right.
I am like, great. I think
Yep.
we've done the work. And that to me is what is most joyful about, about the work that I've been doing.
Yeah. Well, it comes most in my world, how I define all that is what comes most natural to us. By the way, that's part of your genius zone. That's a whole other conversation. And genius has everything to do with creativity, nothing about IQ. Is that when we are literally doing that which brings us the most joy, that which is most natural to us, and follow that intuition that tells us it lights us up. You're in as I said, in my world, you're in your genius zone. And that's when we impact humanity the most. All right.
Yeah. No, I
So
agree. I agree. I mean, I think, as hard as doing theater and, and I did say it earlier, like, somebody said, oh, you'll never make money. I don't have a mansion, but literally I wake up every day and I am happy
yeah.
to jump in and do the work.
Mm.
I think when we knew each other, Marla, I was working full time for a bank, and
You were.
remember that I was
Yes.
working as a banker.
I
And I
know.
mean, literally, I would wake up before I could take a shower. I was miserable.
Miserable.
I put on my
Mm.
tie and my suit and I am miserable. I am driving and I'm miserable. I get in there, I'm already looking at like what time, how much longer before 5 p.m. before I can leave. And
Yeah.
that is not a way of living. And
Mm-mm.
so when I left the bank after, I think I was in the bank for like 10 years while I was still doing theater.
Mhm.
When I finally just got rid of the banking, I was so happy. I was so happy. I'm so happy. Even today, I'm happy to wake up. I'm
Mm.
happy to like look at my calendar. Oh, I have a podcast with Marla. And then after this, I have a board meeting. And then after this, I'm happy because I am doing the work that I wanted to do, that I had imagined doing
Yeah.
when I was younger, when we were
Ah,
younger, when we were like, what our aspirations and our hopes were. It is happening. And so if I am living in that moment,
mm.
well, that's it. I mean, that's really what everybody should be doing. What
Yeah.
makes you happy, and you should do it.
Music to my ears. No,
Well,
seriously.
you're an example of that, right? I mean, you've been doing it, and that is exactly the kind. I mean, you know, f- long term friendships and relationships are there because there is a mutual understanding of how life functions.
Right.
And so I think that's part of like, our I'm friends with Scott. A lot of my friends have this idea and ideologies, and so of course, they pursue different ways of how
Mhm.
that makes them happy, but they are happy, and that's what I want to be around. I want to be around people who are happy and who are energized and who are interested in really serving other people.
Yeah. No, fabulous. I love that. Define a little bit, and then we'll move on to another question, but define what underserved voices means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for decades, and even for me when I came into this country in 1979,
Mhm.
when I started going to the theater, and this is like, this was a time where, especially in Los Angeles, where there was a lot of smaller theaters blossoming, and so I would go and see them. I I saw a lot of plays, a lot of stories that were white centric, that was really centered around white people. And so as a Filipino immigrant coming into this country, I was like, oh, well, I guess Los Angeles doesn't have any diverse, people, because I only see white people on stage. And so when I say underserved communities, it's the community that are not represented normally on stage. And so for decades, even on Broadway and just the history of theater, there's a lot of plays that have been done that have been centered on, the white experience. So it has changed greatly, especially during the pandemic, but certainly in the last, I would say, 20 years, there has been movement. And so the beginning of the Latino theater companies, the the Negro ensemble, the Black theaters, the all of these like companies that are blossoming, East West players that specializes in Asian American plays. So there was the beginning of that. And so when I created my theater, I was specifically interested in pursuing not necessarily a singular culture or race, but I was interested in a diverse storytelling where in a season of 4 plays, I could be talking about a Black experience and talking about an Asian experience, sometimes the intersectionality of a Black and perhaps a Latino, so that we are giving playwrights who are normally not given the opportunity in larger theaters have a place to present their work. And so that has been, to me, as far as underserved communities, is like being able to represent everyone on our stage.
I love that. I think that's the big golden nugget for this episode right there.
Yeah, yeah,
Because what that intuitively told me when I heard the words underserved voices, I thought that's an interesting, there's more to that for him. So my point is that is why you're doing what you're doing.
that's right.
Right there. It's not entertainment. Yes, yes, yes. That's the facade, if you will. We all have a facade, which is
right.
the front of
Yeah.
what we're doing, because we're essentially, how I believe this to be, especially for us creatives, is that we all have a facade, but we're all here to impact humanity.
That's right.
And we're here to impact humanity in the way that best expresses our genius.
That's right.
Right.
And I think because like you and I were speaking earlier before the podcast, is that this is from my own experience. I came into this country and I did not see myself on the stage. I did not see myself being represented. So
Yep.
to change the paradigm of what that could be, when I had a little bit of power to create something, then I'm going to change it and really uplift those stories and not just sit back saying, well, you know what? I know that it works with an all like white cast. I'm just gonna like keep doing that and promote that. I'm like, no, that's not where I want where the culture of theater I feel needs to go. It needs to be more diverse. And so thankfully, in the last 20 years, I feel like there's a real great leaps and work that has been done that really uplifts those underserved stories. Not enough, but there is already a little bit of that already starting. And you can see even now, especially after the pandemic, after George Floyd, after Black Lives Matter, after Stop Asian Hate, that there is a conscious effort to really be intentional in changing the way that we present theater.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, again, it's diversity, but what you're doing through the arts, right, is you're taking a stand for diversity. That's the bottom line.
That's right.
And to me, that's the core of your message, your mission, who you stand for, what you stand for. And I'm thrilled that I just figured this out, because I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that about you. And it's all about the storytelling. We're both storytellers.
Yes.
So I love that. Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah. Really, really great stuff. Speaking of stories, share a story that, and I ask this because it's the premise to the podcast about following your intuition, following your joy. When you followed your intuition and it created a wonderful result, fulfilling result, because you listened to that intuition.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give you 2 examples. I think there's a lot of them to share.
Sure.
We don't have that time, for your podcast, but I'm going to share 2 of them. One that is both of them very dear to me. One was done almost 20 years ago in 2004. We did a production of Dog Eaters in Los Angeles, and Dog Eaters at the time, it's a play about the Philippines, written by a Filipino playwright, and It was done for the first time in Los Angeles in 2004, and I directed it. And it was done in a community center in Filipino town.
Mm.
And, it wasn't a theater. We were presenting this epic play with 20 actors playing 60 different characters in a community hall, basically, that didn't have really lights or any equipment. So we had to create the seating. We had to bring in the lighting grid. We had to bring in the light. We actually had to bring in power to make sure that the lights stay on during the performances. But because we were doing a Filipino play with so many challenges and obstacles, but we were doing it in a community center in the middle of Filipino town, the intersectionality again of community and art became the thing that powered that production. All of a sudden, the community really came around and supported the work, and we had an amazing production. And it was so amazing that CTG actually picked it up and took it to the Kirk Douglas Theater like a year later.
Yeah.
So, to do this production, I was hired to direct it for this community center. And the community, not only Filipinos, but theater community, everybody came to see it and really loved it. That by the time we finished it, CTG was going, we'd love to move this to the Kirk Douglas in a 300-seat theater in Culver City. So, and we moved it there for 5 weeks, and it sold out over there. So, again, our audience maybe for the Filipino community town, Filipino town that we did it for the first time, I would say maybe 80 to 90% of it was truly Filipinos who were coming to appreciate it. But when it moved to the Kirk Douglas, there is an audience that was much wider.
Right.
So they are now understanding Philippine culture, Philippine history, Philippine like storytelling. So to me, the what we've talked about, like we are giving an underserved story somewhere else that goes and gets a platform someplace that people can actually appreciate. And again, it's just because of our our commitment to that work that really made it happen. The other thing I'm just going to share very quickly is that during the pandemic, no one was doing theater, right? So but in 2020, the pandemic started in March. By November, I did a production called March in a parking lot at the Gay and Lesbian Center.
Wow.
And what really inspired me about that is there first, as an artist, I just didn't think like, well, the theaters are closed down, so we're not going to do any shows. And I'm going, okay, no, hold on. Theaters like in the Greeks during the wars, like people like in Nazi Germany, they were underground theater. So wait a minute, I know there's a pandemic going on, but how can we present to be safe for everybody? So I envisioned this play, and thank God the LGBT Center came on board with us. So Playwrights Arena LGBT Center did this production in the parking lot. The audience stayed in the cars in a bubble so that they don't ever they just stayed in the cars, and the whole performance was in the parking lot of the LGBT Center. Ooh. So again, thinking about the resilience of doing art and the passion to do it, and the subject matter that I created, there was no script. It was all an idea that I presented to LGBT Center, and they said, let's do it. So I hired 3 trans and non-binary actors and other people. So it was really responding to how trans people were being responded to during that time. Yeah. So when we did the play, it was called March, and it was a utopian society. So the audience came in, they parked their cars, and the center part of it, we did this play, and it's about controlling the trans people, and then the trans people with some kind of magic realism happen. They were able to break it out and really keep their identity, and they run off. And so it's a short play. It was only 45 minutes long because we wanted the audience, again, it's the middle of the pandemic, we wanted the audience to feel safe. They're inside. They turn on their radio to tune in, and they could hear the whole dialogue. And
My
It was
goodness.
so amazing. I mean,
Wow.
everybody came and saw it. It was sold out in this like little parking lot that we had, you know.
That
So
is amazing. Parking lot live theater.
yes,
I mean, it's like the old drive-ins, right? The
yes,
drive-in
that's right. That
theaters,
is
right?
exactly
For
how. Yeah,
movies, but that's
yeah.
the same concept.
And
That's
we partnered with amazing sound designers, so
so
they
clever.
figured out how where to tune in, and we checked everybody's cars before we started, making sure that they're in the right thing,
Right.
and so they could hear the play, and
That's
they just like
incredible. It's
rolled up and they just
so
listened to the
innovative.
play and
Yeah.
they just watch it from their car.
So innovative.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love it. Good on
yeah, I
good,
mean, I
good
think
on
that
you.
to me,
Mm,
if there is passion, like we've been talking about,
yeah.
if there is desire,
Mm,
there is a way. And so for me, as an artist, I felt like I was paralyzed because the theaters were shuttered, right? And so
right.
I'm going, well, wait a minute. People were shuttered before. People
Yep.
like were condemned. People had to go through wars, and
Mm,
theaters still want. How can I make this happen? So for me,
mm,
pandemic. So okay, the most important thing is the safety. So how do we? And all of our actors had shields on, had masks on. We rehearsed with, and like no one got sick the entire rehearsal until the end of the play. Nothing. At the end of the play, we all got tested. Nobody got because we were protecting everybody
amazing.
and we still
Wow.
created this work.
Right,
Yeah,
great, great story. So do me a favor. I
yeah,
love this.
yes,
Do me a favor with both these stories so we can kind of bring it together.
yeah,
Connect the dots of the intuition. In other words, there's a theme going on here for you.
yeah,
It's one consistent theme around intuition. Again, the beginning of the question was, what you followed your intuition that ended in this, great result. What's the common thread here about your intuition?
I think for me it's responding to the needs of the community, the needs of our audience. In both cases, when we did Dog Eaters, there wasn't really a lot of Filipino plays being presented, and Filipino actors weren't really being represented on stage. So when we did it, especially having a cast of 20 people doing that, I
Yeah.
think we were responding to the need of the community. And when I did March, I was responding to the need of the community and the desire to still be able to commune and meet and
Right.
gather as safely as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and responding to the needs of the trans
Mm-hmm.
community. So I feel that it was always about, to me, the intuition is that always been about the need of the community and how do I uplift those communities.
Right.
And I think once you have that, once you can identify that need, then, and if you have the passion to make that happen, then I think you can make something really,
Yeah.
what I always call a magical moment,
See,
right? Because
see everyone, there's the real, seriously, there's the real answer to what magic means, at
that's
least
right.
obviously in John's world. And I think
Yeah,
I agree, it is magical.
yeah,
So okay, so very good. So it was really your, and it's an energy, intuition is an energy. It's an
yeah,
etheric energy that you,
yeah.
you connect to, right?
Also awareness. I think intuition comes from awareness, right?
Yep.
Being an aware person, being a
Right.
person
Yep.
that understands society, understands needs. I
Mm.
think our intuition comes from that, right?
Yep.
Because if you're
Connecting.
not if you have blinders on and you're only focused on what you're doing, intuition doesn't come until you like open it up, open it as wide as possible.
Right.
And the more that you can see the landscape, the more that you can see the world. That's why traveling is so amazing. The more that you can understand what is happening, who is being mistreated, who is being like, I
Right.
think when you open that up, then you get to say
Mm.
there is a need to support this, there is a need to uplift this, there's a need to, like, then that need becomes your passion. And for me,
Okay.
that is how things
That's
happen.
it. Yeah. Well, let me tell you, you have displayed your passion beautifully. I love it. You're very passionate about what you do. my gosh, over the last 32 years. I mean, and you're still that passionate about it. Yeah, it's really, really terrific.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you for that. Based on this rich experiences you've had over the 30 years, what one tip of advice do you want to give to our creatives listening?
Yeah, I mean, to me, what I always impart with people, especially when you're dealing with art and theater and storytelling, is to be as fearless as possible, right? I mean, you want to be able to tell the stories, to do it with, with real passion and with real desire. And I think fearlessness gives you the freedom to do the work, because all of us, trust me, there are moments when I'm like, oh, I don't know, that's too scary to do. I don't know who's gonna come if I do that show. I don't know if I deal with trans stories, that's gonna, like, tell people, a lot of people will just go away. And not, if I tell a Filipino play, no one's gonna come. It's like, if you let fear control you,
Mhm.
to me, I would be paralyzed and I won't do anything. So whenever I have fear, I always go, I am going to attack it as fearlessly as I can. One of the things that I learned how to manage to do this, skiing. When I went skiing, and there was a way of attacking the mountain, and I remember this, that there's a way, like, fear will be like, and you keep falling, right? Because you're like,
Yeah.
every time you're afraid, you fall. And so when I was learning how to ski, the instructor says, attack it, attack the mountain, go for it. So to me, it's the same way of creating art and being, and making it happen.
Mm.
Because fear will, like, you keep falling, but if you attack it, you can actually go pretty far with it. And you go, oh my god, I'm still standing, right? So I always say that in theater there's a lot of questions that you start doubting things, and you start being afraid of, and you start, like, and those are only tools to stop you from doing anything.
Right.
What I do is that when I hear those, then I sort of, like, even move farther, as far as I can get,
Mm.
because otherwise
Yeah.
that fear would, like, stop me.
Yeah. Fantastic. No, I mean, all part of creativity. And I don't know if you've ever read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic, her book. Highly, highly recommend it. It's all about, how to deal with, I should say, transform fear into courage
Yeah,
as a creative.
yeah.
And I
And
use
it's hard. A lot of people are like, they can't shift it,
yeah.
and I think
Mm.
that is something that a lot of people who have sustained a career for a long time, is they're able to really convert fear into courage,
Yeah,
into fearlessness.
that's right. No, it's a must. It's a must in living. I mean, it's something obviously as a coach I deal with all the time with entrepreneurs and so forth. So yeah, wise advice, Jon. All right, terrific. So to wrap this up, where can people get in touch with you? And is there anything that you want to promote? Anything that's coming up at the Playwrights Arena? Please share.
Yeah. So one thing, I hope people can come and see this. There is this play that we've been developing for 2 years. It's called Mix. It's being done at the Skirball Center,
Mhm.
on November 9th. It's a Wednesday, from starting at 2 p.m. It's free, but you have to go and make a reservation, and you can just go to the Skirball Center website, and you'll see it there. Otherwise, I mean, you can find us at playwrightsarena.org.
Yeah.
You can also find my Instagram, which is Director Rivera.
Mhm.
And, I think those are the places where you can find me,
Mhm.
uh, and also the work that we've been doing at Playwrights Arena.
Fantastic. And we'll have all that in the show notes, so no worries. Yep, absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, well, it's been delightful. I've learned, I mean, even though I've known you for 30 years, I've definitely learned some new things about you. So thank you for that. And everybody, until next week, as you work and live, what do? Always follow your joy. All right, take care, everyone. Jon, let's say goodbye. See
Bye.
ya. Thanks for listening in. You can find more entrepreneurial stories and resources at marladiane.com. And while you're there, enjoy my 3 free downloads to up-level your business and your life. How about you take a screenshot of this episode and tag me on Instagram by sharing your highlights of what you learned today? I'd love to connect there with you. Until next episode, take care.